Today's tutorial is about understanding where the fine details are. Today we're going to be tracing, which sometimes might be frowned upon. There may be people that ask, did you trace that? And say that as if it's a bad thing. It's not a bad thing. In fact, I encourage it in beginning art classes because it's helpful for people to draw their eye to the different details that otherwise would have been forgotten. So in this little picture, you're going to see there's a whole lot of detail in this frog's eye. He also has what looks like scales or bumps on his face. I am going to outline as much detail as possible, even details that I don't really understand. Sometimes I even use a little bit of a scribble when I don't understand exactly what I'm looking at, but I want to pay attention to the different details that I see. Naturally, I have students that give me a really hard outline to the main figure that they're drawing. I want you to try to avoid that. You're really not emphasizing the edge of your animal, your insect, whatever it is that you chose. What you are emphasizing is the dark areas. Let's look at it that way. I'm going to look at the darker areas and outline them as I go. I've already shaded the back of my picture and I have it taped down. You should be able to draw details, and the transfer happens when the pencil on the back of your paper has pressure applied to it. So what I'm going to be working on in front of you, and I'll try to make it so you can see, I'm just starting in a random spot. Already you can see that the lines that I'm working on are very organic. They're not perfect straight lines. Sometimes they don't fully make sense to me. I also am going to try to take my time, but I'm not shading any of this. I'm also paying close attention to shadows. If I see a shadow that makes a darker area, I also outline that area. Why? Because when it comes time to add all of the color and make this look beautiful like the pictures that you originally found, that's when you're going to need to have this information already on your paper. I'm going to shift to a different section after you get to take a peek at what I've done. Again, like I said, there are areas where I don't have a perfect line or I don't understand what I'm looking at, and sometimes I have to do a little bit of a scribble. I'm going to lift up my paper so you guys can see my shaded or my lines. I'm going to zoom in here. Okay. Right now, I've only done a small section. You can't tell what animal it is. All I know is that it does have organic shape as opposed to geometric shapes. These organic lines are making up the scales. I'm going to move to a different section so you can see how I handle this frog eye. The frog eye definitely has a whole lot of details. I understand that some people may even be intimidated by details like this. What I'm going to do is called a little bit of a stipple, okay? Some of those little areas are too small for me to circle. I'm just taking my pencil on top of it and I'm making like a dot, which can also be called a stipple. I'll show you right here because it's difficult to see on my paper. If I apply enough pressure, I can see that stipple on the other side of the paper, that dot. Yes, that dot needs to be there. If you don't emphasize those dots or those details, you're going to forget about it completely. Let me move back over to my eye. Some of these dots or details in here are very hard to circle, so I am doing a stipple. When you have a white area, when you're using colored pencil, you will use colored pencil on everything except the white areas. I'm going to ask you to not use any colored pencil on the white areas. Initially, when you make a white area, you may have pencil lines in there. Eventually, those pencil lines are going to get erased. Now, I'm going to draw your attention to another section after I do a couple more details in this eye. Okay, let's take a peek at it, look at it, see if I'm doing a good job. Sometimes when I am working, the pencil line, if you're not checking it and the pencil line is not showing up, it's good to know that ahead of time. It means you need to darken your shading that you did on the back of the picture. Yes, these lines are very light. They look subtle, but I can see them. If you cannot see them, then you need to darken the pencil lines. Now I'm going to move into another section, and I think from your vantage point, it's a little bit difficult to see. I'm going to focus on not only this reflection right here, but if you look closely, I know the camera doesn't do justice to it, but there are all kinds of details reflecting in those glassy eyes. I don't understand what it is that Frog is looking at, but it's showing me that he's looking at probably like kind of a forest scene. That's what it looks like, and I can guess just from doing art long enough that he's probably had his picture taken while he's in some sort of rainforest. This isn't a typical frog that you see out in the wild. Not here in Missouri. Okay, I'm going to outline as much detail as I can, even though I don't fully understand it. I don't know exactly what I'm looking at here. I don't know what he's looking at, but you will almost always see reflections in the eyes. In some images, the reflections are more apparent than others. So now I'm going to flip over my paper so you can see. Take a look. So when you are working in the eye or the pupil or the iris of an eye, I call this project Animal Eye for a reason. Your emphasis is on the animal eye. That eye is going to have a range of different details in the eye. So I'm going to go over to a colored image of that frog. In the colored image, you can see a little bit more of that reflection in there. One thing to also keep in mind, we were working on this outer edge here that has all of these beautiful little details. Do I randomly take my pencil and quickly go like this? Someone will do it. But it is not the right way to do this. You're not tracing the proper way. If I see your pencil up and down moving in this kind of motion, you have not understood what I want to teach you, okay? So the purpose of this is for you to pay attention to the kind of details that you see. In this eye, you're not really seeing blood vessels or a whole lot of different colors in here. But when we have other images, many people are going to see blood vessels, lots and lots of different lines in those eyes. You need to outline those. Those are the details that are going to make it stand out. And in the end, because at this part, you paid attention to the fine detail, you are going to do an amazing work of art that shows detail that you otherwise would have forgotten about. All right, so moving on from there, we'll go ahead and continue with tracing today. That completes our lesson. All you're working on for the first day is focusing on the lines, the organic lines outlining details and changes in value.